Ladies and gentlemen, now that we are halfway done through 2025, I've noticed I have only reviewed three, or depending on when this video gets uploaded, four 2025 movies this year. Those movies include a Minecraft movie, Until Dawn, Final Destination Bloodlines, and perhaps Superman. It just depends on when I get that video up compared to this video. But in general, I am a fraud. That consistency, I admit, is horrible. What makes it even more baffling is I have actually seen more than 3 or 4 movies this year. I have seen damn near 50, and that's only including the 2025 releases. In general, I've seen, I think, over 80 movies this year. But regardless, I thought, you know what? It's halfway throughout the year. You've seen all these movies. You have all these opinions and takes that the world is waiting for. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the biggest releases of 2025. I'm not going to talk about every single film I've seen, just the ones I feel like that are worth mentioning, whether that reason being I thought they were either really good or maybe really dog shit. Perhaps there's a hidden gem I want to shine light on. Maybe there's a movie I was surprisingly disappointed by. Regardless, this is going to be another Swans TV yap session. Can't even get my words right. There will be no spoilers for any movie mentioned in this video. Let's get started. 28 Years Later, directed by Danny Boyle, written by Alex Garland, starring Alfie Williams, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and Ralph Fiennes. This is the third installment in the 28 Days trilogy, and it was really good. Arguably the best film in the trilogy. I can see people saying either this one or 28 Days Later, the first one from 2002. Also directed by Danny Boyle, also written by Alex Garland. Those movies, to me, they are neck and neck. I gotta rewatch the first one to determine which one I like more. But yeah, they're like right here. And then 75,000 miles below is 28 Weeks Later. 28 mid later, let's talk about that. It's not dog shit, let me clarify. There were some aspects I enjoyed, but I thought 28 Weeks Later was mid nonetheless. One of my favorite things about 28 Years Later is how intense it feels throughout the entire runtime. If there's anything consistent about these 28 movies, is that they always manage to make the presence of these zombies known. They always feel like fucking demons. From how these things growl and twitch to the way that they run and the frame rate they run at, mixed along with the fast-paced editing and how vicious and violent and rabid these things are portrayed as, whenever these monsters appear on screen, instantly the mood just shifts. They capture your attention. You feel the dread, you feel the threat. And that in itself, I would say, is an accomplishment. This is a zombie horror movie that actually captures the horror and how scary it would be to live in a zombie world. And I love that. My eyes were glued the entire time. I was captivated. This film takes place 28 years later after the first one. And I enjoyed the direction it took the story. Very cool spin on the zombie narrative. It reminded me a lot of The Last of Us, where it takes place many years after the apocalypse, and you now see the remnants of society sort of react and settle and how they'll survive in this new world. Along with this being a very intense horror movie, it also just has a pretty good story in an interesting lived-in setting. The set design was noticeably peak. It reminded me a lot of, in general, this movie felt like it was inspired by Attack on Titan. I know Danny Boyle said The Last of Us inspired him in this movie, but I felt more Attack on Titan vibes. Super stylized film. I was quickly reminded this is a Danny Boyle film, and you'll know what I'm talking about 5 minutes into the movie. His trademark sort of energetic, almost chaotic style is present in this movie, and it just gives the story more life. There's a child actor who plays the main lead, Alfie Williams, and he's good. So a round of applause for that, because child actors are unfortunately usually not good. In fact, everyone had great acting in this movie. Everyone had a screen presence about them. Aaron Taylor Johnson wasn't given a whole lot to do, but he was still able. He did what he had to do. The standout performances were definitely the main lead. Ralph Fiennes and Jodie Comer as the mom was fantastic and heartbreaking. There's a scene, again, no spoilers, in the final act that involves all three of those actors, and it's beautifully done. This is a Danny Boyle film, like I said, so expect there to be not only a great score, but a great soundtrack too. Just like the first film, there is a Godspeed You Black Emperor song, so immediately I was like, oh, 10 out of 10, but I had to reel it in. I had to come back down to earth. I took way too long of a pause on that. Anywho, but yeah, I would recommend 28 Years Later to really anybody, even if you haven't seen the other two movies, because this is a sequel where you don't really need to watch the other two films to understand the story of this one. It's pretty separate from the others. I would still recommend you watch the others. I would recommend you watch the first one, because in general, it's just a great, ambitious zombie horror flick. But yes, 28 Years Later, I'm giving a 7 out of 10. I would definitely recommend it. And so far, it is top 5 best movies of the year. Now let's go ahead and talk about top 5 worst movies of the year. Hurry Up Tomorrow, directed by Trey Edward Schultz, starring Jenna Ortega and The Weeknd. Trey Edward Schultz, I believed in you. I still believe in you. We all miss every now and then. Trust me, I know. But what the fuck was this? Hurry Up Tomorrow is a psychological... Is it? Okay. On Wikipedia, it's going to tell you Hurry Up Tomorrow is a psychological thriller. It's written by Trey Edward Schultz and The Weeknd. Okay, well, first of all, the script, the worst part. This story is ass. I think in most cases, throwing around the word pretentious does nothing for anybody. It's just a end-all be-all for art you didn't either understand or like or connect with. Almost feels like a scapegoat. Pretty useless in most scenarios. But that being said, I truly fail to recognize a better word to describe this movie. It's extremely self-indulgent of The Weeknd and feels very ego-driven because there's so little to digest other than look how cool and deep and talented and troublesome The Weeknd is. And there's nothing else. Nothing intriguing or compelling about our characters or the story. Very underwhelming psychological thriller. It's more of a surreal character study. A badly written one at that. Some bizarre editing choices and pacing issues. Just, I hate this word, it's cringe. I'm sorry, it is. It's trying to be a little bit After Hours, it's trying to be a little bit Misery, it's trying to be a little bit Mulholland Drive, but it just comes off as completely empty, because unlike those movies, this one has absolutely nothing interesting to say at all. In this film, we're following The Weeknd playing himself, and it shows his internal struggles, what he's going through, the downsides of fame and stardom, and it's all the same old celebrity upper class bullshit we've all seen before. It's just the same old tortured artist bullshit. I'm rich and talented, and because of that, I have parasites around me, and I have no real friends, so I'm lonely, so I drown all my problems in drugs and alcohol and ass. I get a lot of ass, and it's unbearable. I'm not trying to downplay his problems. I know it may have seemed like that. I kind of lost my mind for a second. I'm sure he's going through... I'm sure these are all valid, real struggles. But the film shows nothing else beneath the surface. The writing is very, very dull. There's no emotional connection anywhere. You don't give a fuck about any character. And without that emotional connection, this film always feels like it's taking itself way too seriously. Like it's in over its head on how impactful it thinks some of these scenes really are. When in reality, nothing of importance, nothing of consequence happens anywhere in the runtime. So when it tries to steer into surrealism or have scenes where our characters are extremely emotionally driven, you kind of just roll your eyes like, I don't care, bro. You already failed to establish me caring about any of this in the first half, and now you expect me to take this climax seriously? Again, it just feels so self-indulgent. It's shot well, good soundtrack, especially if you like The Weeknd, but the story is way too lackluster to feel like anything else other than a waste of time. And lastly, real quick, let's talk about the acting. Jen Ortega and Barry Keoghan, they're good. They play their parts well. Abel, or The Weeknd, He's bad, yes. He's not as horrible as he was in The Idol, but he's obviously the worst performance in the film. Some of you may have seen that viral clip of him going viral on Twitter a few months ago, where he's like, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. What are you doing? I'm on a tour. I got a flight. I have a call to make. Yeah, that's kind of him throughout the whole movie.
Shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! Shut up! What are you doing?
And that goes to show you The Weeknd is just not meant to be a lead role. Even in a movie written by him, playing him, he's not meant to be a lead. He don't, as of right now, he's not that guy. I'm giving Hurry Up Tomorrow a 3 out of 10. One of the worst movies of the year. Hurry Up Tomorrow, more like hurry up and get me out of the fucking theater. This shit was ass. Now let's go ahead and get into Marvel. Thunderbolts, directed by Jake. What the hell kind of last name is that? Jake Schreier, starring Florence Pugh and David Harbour. This is the most recent MCU film. At the time of recording this, Fantastic Four is right around the corner, but that will be in the future. For right now, Thunderbolts. This movie did have the very difficult task of restoring the public's faith in the MCU. Because, ever since Endgame, let's be honest, they have seemingly lost the sauce completely. The 2010s, Marvel had the world in a chokehold. And the MCU was giving all of us back shots. Don't put that in there. They were dropping at least 2 movies a year, and most of them were able to become a smash hit. Even for superhero movies that at the time weren't mainstream public household names, became mainstream public household names because of these films. Example, Guardians of the Galaxy. Who the fuck knew who any of them were if you weren't like a Funko Pop collecting loser, weeb, nerd, dipshit, idiot. No, the MCU was getting praise from reviews. They were getting great box office numbers. The 2010s, the MCU was just in their bag. But too much of anything can obviously quickly become a bad thing, and after Marvel dropped over 20 movies and their epic 2-part conclusion, Infinity War and Endgame, superhero fatigue quickly settled in, and especially settled in after Endgame, where even after the conclusion to the first major saga with all of our characters that we've been watching and seeing them grow and develop, after this series concluded that, they dropped even more movies and even more TV shows. And it all seemed very rushed and not as planned as the previous years. There was a noticeable drop in quality and a even bigger rise in quantity. In the last 5 years, I would say Marvel has dropped only 2 good movies. That would be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and the second Black Panther. Those are the 2 good ones. Everything else has been either mid or straight up dog shit. And I think a lot of people can't agree with that. The marketing for Thunderbolts seemed to promise us something different. It seemed that Marvel has finally understood, okay, we have to do something different. They need an ace up their sleeves if they don't want to end up like the 2010s DCEU. Now the question is Thunderbolts that ace up their sleeves? Kinda. It was alright. It was good. It's definitely one of the best Marvel movies of the decade, but with the competition, that's not too impressive. In general, I liked it. It was okay. It was okay. Like I said, it's definitely one of the better Marvel movies recently. For one, it just looks better. It's not bland and ugly. Like, some shots have interesting lighting. The colors look sharp. The composition in general looks good. It doesn't look and feel dull and lifeless like Captain America Brave New World. That entire movie looked like a PlayStation 3 cutscene. And I think the reason for that is because this film feels a lot less green screeny. Like, a lot of interiors and settings at least feel practical and real. The VFX overall is solid in this movie. Hopefully this is a sign we're no longer getting Black Widow levels of special effects anymore, because Black Widow is a prime example of VFX in a multi-billion-dollar company somehow looking absolute dog shit. But I think my favorite part about this film is the chemistry between the characters. We spent a lot of time following these characters sort of butting heads, learning how to trust each other and work together. And it's a basic formula, but it works for this film. You have a fun time with them. They're not the most complex, layered characters ever written, but they are entertaining, they're funny, and they do a good job portraying the sort of ragtag team up of morally gray, this ain't your mama's superhero team. We say bad words, and we don't care about innocent people. Now, stay and watch as we go save innocent people. But yes, they are a fun group of characters. The acting overall is solid, especially from Florence Pugh. She is a great actress. However, the scene stealer, I would say, is Louis Pullman. I really enjoyed his performance. I don't know how much I can talk about this character without spoiling anything, so I'll just leave it at that. Louis Pullman pulls off my favorite performance, and he's also my favorite character in the movie. Now, as for the theme, I liked how they were trying to do something different, something obviously much more deep and serious and personal. I don't know if I like how they did it though, because again, I can't say too much or I'll spoil the movie, but I think they dealt with a subject that's too complex to fit comfortably in a narrative for a Marvel movie. There were some things about it where I was like, I know what you're trying to say. I don't think that's how that works. I don't know if you should be saying that like that. But they tried, so props to them. I could always appreciate trying something new, trying something a bit more ballsy. At the end of the day, this is still another Marvel movie where it's filled with quirky Marvel humor, some decent action, and good guys in costumes trying to defeat the bad guy. Same formula, just a bit better quality than some of the other forgettable Marvel projects we've gotten recently. If you are a fan of the MCU or superhero movies in general, then I would recommend this movie. I'm giving Thunderbolts a 5 out of 10. It's definitely closer to a 6 than a 4. Again, one of the better Marvel movies. A 5 out of 10 is like perfectly in the middle. It's like okay, and that's how I feel about this movie. Usually if I give something a 6, that implies that I enjoyed it enough where I would want to rewatch it, and I didn't connect with Thunderbolts that much. Like, I have no urge to rewatch this movie. I'm not planning on ever rewatching it, but it was okay. I felt like I did not waste my time. Now let's go ahead and talk about a waste of time. Ash, directed by Flying Lotus, yes, that Flying Lotus, starring Isa Gonzalez and Aaron Paul. This movie was weird. But unfortunately, it was also dog shit. I believe this is the second feature-length film from Flying Lotus. He's mainly known for being a musician. I'm a fan of some of his music, but I guess he also dabbles in being a filmmaker. I've yet to see his directorial debut, Kuso from 2017, and now I don't know if I want to. This is a science fiction psychological horror film where we follow an astronaut who wakes up on a mysterious planet only to find her entire crew has been slaughtered. And then Jesse from Breaking Bad comes and finds her and shit just gets weird. This is a psychedelic movie, not just with the very colorful visuals, which we'll get into in a moment, but the film is also deliberately disorienting. The narrative structure and the editing is pretty jarring. Well, hold on, scratch the thought. Warning, if you're gonna watch this movie, don't have epilepsy, because I damn near developed epilepsy because of all the flashing sequences and strobe lights. And again, it's very colorful. There's a lot of blue lights, greens, pinks, reds, and it's just so constant and in your face. It's nauseating. It's not a plus. It doesn't add to the overall dread or atmosphere. It was simply an artistic direction I did not enjoy. I just found it, like I said, a bit nauseating. And with the purposely confusing story, and at least story structure, this movie at times is just quite literally unpleasant to experience. And not in a good way. Don't take that as like this is some provocative masterpiece like Solo. No, this is a simple yet convoluted mess of a headache. I appreciate its ambition, not its execution. The acting from everybody was either mid or dog shit. Even my goat from The Raid Redemption couldn't pull off a solid line delivery. That may be more due to the fact of the language barrier, but then again, there were plenty of English speakers in this movie that were also having trouble delivering a good line delivery. So, Who knows? The cinematography was okay for the most part. In some parts it looked really good, but just like Only God Forgives, if you're trying to make every shot look like some colorful neon masterpiece, you sort of just end up drowning yourself out, and every shot after the first 30 minutes just looks mundane and repetitive and nothing pops out anymore. I really like the score. The score was probably the strongest aspect of this film. I mean, it's Flying Lotus, so it better fucking be. There was also a cool monster design at the end of the movie, which brings me to bring up the VFX. The VFX in this movie was noticeably bad. It looked dated, but this is a recent film, and it looked like some of the special effects look dead ass like they came out of 2011. But I say that is true. There is one really cool monster design, which the monster design looks cool, but it does have bad VFX, but I still think the design itself is really creative and freaky. I liked it. Respect this movie's creativity. There were some visuals that were interesting. It tried to be ambitious, but it just flew way too close to the sun. Ash was pretty bad. I'm giving Ash a 4 out of 10. It's not bottom of the barrel dog shit like Hurry Up Tomorrow, but it is still bad nonetheless. I would not recommend this movie, especially if you are prone to seizures. Next film, let's go ahead and talk about Bring Her Back, directed by Danny and Michael Filippo, starring Sora Wong, Billy Barrett, and Sally Hawkins. This is a horror movie distributed by A24. I was gonna say I believe, but this is the second feature-length film from the Filippo. I'm just gonna call them the brothers. The brothers. Is it better than their directorial debut, Talk to Me? No. Is it a good movie? Fuck no. Just kidding. Yes, it is. This is a good movie. In Bring Her Back, we are following a brother and sister sent to live with a new foster mother, Laura, who might go down as one of the most evil characters of 2025 cinema. She was something, and again, no spoilers, but you find out quite quickly, oh, this is a weird, unhinged individual. If we're gonna be comparing this movie to Talk to Me, one of the best improvements I noticed was the practical effects. The body horror in this film is extremely intense, extremely graphic, and very much well done. There are gonna be scenes that will absolutely make you wince and cringe, but they're supposed to. Very effective practical effect work. And the acting. The acting is strong from the entire cast. I can't even pick out the scene stealer because everyone has a moment to shine. Even the creepy mute little white boy, he is solid in this movie. We get a very ominous, believable presence about him, which is very difficult for a child actor to pull off convincingly and naturally. I guess my biggest critique with Bring Her Back would be the meat of the story. I wish we got it more. Not necessarily in terms of the details of the supernatural aspects or the lore of the film. I actually do enjoy that they went for more of a show don't tell in that regard. I mean, I wish we got in a better written story. Half of this movie follows Laura, the foster mother, slowly completing steps for the ritual. The other half is her gaslighting and bullying the brother and sister, and it's sort of just that for the entire runtime up until the very end. Like the best scene in Bring Her Back that isn't horror related, arguably still the best scene in the movie, is two characters just having a conversation. Their backs are facing each other and they're talking about their trauma. That is the best scene in the movie. I was like, yes, okay. Character depth. Let me get attached to these characters and their motivations. Let me understand them, get to know them, and I wish we got more of that, but we didn't. Also, I didn't find this movie too scary. There are 2 or 3 scenes that are awesome, very graphic, but besides those 2 or 3 scenes, I wasn't really dreading anything. In fact, I found myself at times, I'm not gonna say bored, but sort of wondering, waiting for something scary or eerie to happen. I'm a fan of slow burn cinema. I'm a fan of slow burn horror. It's just the slow burn aspects in this film, seeing Laura act and behave the way that she does, it wasn't too captivating. Although I will say, I do think the movie gets scarier in the second half. It does pick up. It's not a masterpiece, but I liked it. It was pretty good. A little underwritten for how much they're asking you to be emotionally invested in. But still, you do care about the characters enough. It's got solid acting and a few great, graphic, unforgettable scenes. I'm giving Bring Her Back a 6 out of 10. I would recommend this movie, especially if you are a fan of horror. But if you're queasy around blood, you may want to skip this one. Now let's go ahead and talk about one of the most underrated movies of the year. The Luckiest Man in America, directed by Samir Oliveros, starring Paul Walter Hauser and Walton Goggins. There are probably at least 3 names I messed up in that. This is one of the biggest hidden gems of 2025. Now on Google, it says it came out in 2024, but that's only because it screened at the Toronto Film Festival in 2024. It didn't get publicly released in theaters until 2025, so it's a 2025 release. What do you want from it? The Luckiest Man in America follows an ice cream truck driver named Michael who attends a game show where he just can't seem to lose. Matter of fact, he's winning to such an absurd degree, the producers start getting very suspicious and start freaking out because they soon realize he's winning so much, he's about to bleed them out dry. So you can kind of split this movie into 2 subplots. One, our main character is just constantly winning at this game show, and the other plot is the producers behind the scenes are panicking and trying to figure out who is this guy and how's he doing this. Now this is a semi-true story, semi-fictionalized version of a real event that happened on live television way back in the 1980s, way back in the prehistoric dinosaur era. Just kidding to all my boomers. For a movie that's just people freaking out about a guy who keeps winning on their game show, it's pretty exciting. It's very exciting, to be honest. This was a good watch. It's a short 1 hour, 30-minute, fun, very well paced, at times intense character study. Our main protagonist, Michael, is a very interesting protagonist, to say the least. Almost every scene, your perception of him sort of flip-flops. You don't know if you could like him, trust him. Is he the good guy? Is he the anti-hero? Is he just a piece of shit? The movie keeps you guessing in interesting ways. It feels fluid. The editing and soundtrack really gives this such a great atmospheric feel. At times, this movie feels like a classic 2000s comedy, and other times it feels like a very serious, almost crime thriller, and it found a great balance between the two. Mix that along with the intrigue of our mysterious protagonist and his secret of winning. This movie's an entertaining joyride. Got funny, quirky characters, great acting, especially from the 2 leads, Paul Walter Hauser and Walton Goggins. But Paul definitely puts on the scene-stealing performance. He is the electricity of this movie. He also kind of looks like a Blonde Meat Canyon, or like a mix of a Blonde Meat Canyon and Karl Marx. So good luck on seeing that. Fun score, insane editing that just adds to the hectic energy of it all. I'm giving The Luckiest Man in America a 7 out of 10. I would definitely recommend this movie. One of the most underrated films of the year, without question. It's just a short, entertaining film that has an interesting story, especially as it unfolds. Highly recommend you add this to your watch list. Another movie I saw was Death of a Unicorn, directed by Alex Sharfman, starring Jenna Ortega and Paul Rudd. This movie is the perfect definition of mid. It is okay. It's right in the middle of being good and right in the middle of being ass. It's closer to being ass, but it's not fully there yet. I'm trying hard to remember anything about this movie. I have here in my notes, funny opening, funny cool deaths, and Will Poulter's the GOAT. That's it, and that's what happens when your movie's mid. You don't remember a single thing that stood out in a good way or even a bad way. Nothing was really notable. Nothing compelled me to jot anything down. It just sort of came and went. It wasn't bad like A Working Man. Wasn't good like, what was a good 28 Years Later. That was a good movie. This is another one of those horror comedy, eat the rich, A24-esque movies like The Menu or Opus, where you have middle-class people dealing with some bizarre dilemma caused by upper-class people. And it doesn't really stand out from any of them. It seems like another one that's not going to be remembered by anybody. And that's crazy to say because this movie has unicorns slaughtering people. I remember the humor being consistent, the best part. I was laughing a few times throughout the movie. It's not comedy of the year by any means. We'll talk about friendship in a later video. But Death of a Unicorn was an okay watch. I thought Will Poulter was the funniest part. In general, he is a great comedic actor. I know he's known for roles like The Revenant or The Bear or recently Warfare, but he's funny as fuck in We're the Millers. He has the funniest line in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
One more step and this weird thing gets it!
Don't be rash.
And he's also the comedic relief, successful comedic relief in Midsommar. So, sorry, I just had sort of an epiphany. Usually when people talk about comedy actors, they bring up, you know, who do they bring up? They bring up, Adam Sandler, Jim Carrey, Jack Black. You know, you got these legends, but Will Poulter is, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, he is low-key making a run himself, at least for this generation. And he's the best part about Death of a Unicorn. It's a pretty funny movie. Absurd, violent deaths caused by unicorns. I'm pretty sure this movie would have done fucking numbers back in 2014. You know, the Roar XD, oh, so derpy, so random, look, unicorns killing people, nah. So yeah, it was okay. Standard cinematography, standard acting, comedy, although nothing groundbreaking, was the strongest aspect. It's not scary, it's not trying to be scary. Out of it being a horror comedy, it's definitely leaning towards the comedy way more than the horror. If you don't find it funny, you're not gonna like it, obviously. I'm giving Death of a Unicorn a 5 out of 10. It is closer to a 4 because it didn't stick with me as much as it should have, but it at least knows what it is and it doesn't overstay its welcome. I had a decent time with it. Alright, now time for one of the biggest pieces of dog shit I've seen all year. Flight Risk, directed by Mel Gibson, starring Mark Wahlberg and Topher Grace. My god, what a horrible trio of names I just said. Headache of a movie. Mel Gibson, I have many problems with you, but this might top the list as the worst thing you have ever done. I'm not even gonna review this. Okay, I'll review it a little bit. It's got actual horrible dialogue with some of the most pitiful, disgusting levels of mediocre acting I've ever seen. And what the fuck was Mark Wahlberg doing? What was that accent? Why was it so inconsistent? Why was his idea of playing an intimidating, unhinged, crazy evil person to just become a gay top? The entire runtime, he's just constantly insinuating gay sex with Topher Grace, and I don't understand how we got here. Topher Grace's character, by far, Adolf Hitler. He might go down as one of the worst, most annoying characters of 2025 cinema, if not already the most annoying character in 2025. And I saw this movie in January. The terrible story, it's either boring or you'll just feel like you're being waterboarded from the horrible acting, horrible dialogue, the bombardment of awful, tone-deaf jokes, bombs that Topher Grace just attacks us with. Flight Risk, more like I'm at risk of taking flight off a building and killing myself. This was a waste of time and a waste of gas for my car that I had to waste driving to the theater. 2 out of 10. This was the equivalent of 15 9/11s. Alright, last two to talk about. Thankfully, these last two are actually really good. They're some of my favorites of the year so far, so let's go ahead and start off with Black Bag, directed by Steven Soderbergh. Oh, Soderbergh. I'm an idiot. Why did my voice crack? That was so bad. Directed by Steven Soderbergh, starring Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett. This is the new slick spy thriller from filmmaker god Steven Soderbergh. Steven Soderbergh, man, you just never know what you're gonna get with this guy. He is a freak of nature when it comes to cinema. You can get a Sex Lies videotape, an Ocean's 11, a Logan Lucky, a Presents, or even a Magic Mike. There's no telling what this man's gonna do. There's not a lot of directors in cinema history, I'd say, that have a variety as much as Steven Soderbergh. He is really just so talented at seemingly just picking any genre of any tone and just knocking it out of the park. This movie's no different. In Black Bag, we follow our protagonist, played by Michael Fassbender, who is a CIA agent given a difficult task. That task being, he has exactly 1 week to investigate a highly classified top secret leak, and one of the suspects, who's suspected of leaking that leak, is his own beloved wife, played by Cate Blanchett, who is also a CIA agent. Now, when I saw this movie and the credits rolled, I thought instantly, this is like a classic go to the movies type of movie. For how much story they're able to fit in this very short hour and 30-minute runtime and still have it feel fully developed and thrilling and not let it feel too crammed or have it drag on. Like I said, that's talented. It takes talent to give us a fleshed out, interesting story with interesting layered characters and hidden motivations, and for the whole thing to feel so fluid and exciting. There were twists, there were turns, there are characters there that are fun and intriguing because you're just not sure who you can trust. Writing and pacing, easily the best part about this movie, which is saying something because all the aspects of this film are solid. The acting is great, especially... Hold on, the acting is good from everybody, but shout out the two leads, Michael Fassbender, Cate Blanchett. Great performances. Michael Fassbender's performance kind of reminded me of his performance in The Killer. You know, that coldness with the humanity sort of lingering beneath. Obviously to not that extent. In that movie, he plays a stone cold hitman. In this movie, he plays a CIA agent. So, you know, not too different. But yes, good cinematography, cool lighting, especially when we get shots of interiors. Very well paced, enjoyable spy thriller. Fun movie. There's really not much else to say. I recommend it. I'm giving Black Bag a 7 out of 10. It is closer to an 8 than a 6. This right here is real cinema. Ladies and gentlemen, last one to talk about. Sinners, directed by Ryan Coogler, starring Michael B. Jordan and Haley Stanfield. As of right now, this is still my favorite movie of the year. I have not seen Eddington yet. I will see it soon. That is the new Ari Aster film. That could pass it up. I don't know. It does look good. That first place may very much change. In fact, I'm pretty sure it'll change as we get closer to the end of the year, as more movies come out. However, like I said, as of right now, this is easily the best film of 2025 so far that I've seen. Awesome, exciting, sexy horror movie about killing vampires. The first half is the setup. Second half, they're killing vampires. It almost feels like two different movies, but I think the switch up in the second half, it's welcomed and it's handled fluidly. It feels smooth for how jarring the transition sounds. I do may by a hair prefer the first act, but that does not mean the second act goes to shit. I just really like the strengths of the first act. I love the meeting and learning about all these characters. They're all so fun and intriguing, especially the protagonist, the pair of twins, Smoke and Stack, played by Michael B. Jordan, who, by the way, puts on his best performance ever since he was a child on The Wire. He killed this movie. Just like Theo James and the Monkey, he's able to pull off a pair of twins perfectly and naturally. Michael B. Jordan even more so, I'd say, because not only is the tone more serious in this film, but each character really has their own presence about them. Like within just the first few scenes, you're already able to understand these characters, their personalities, their dynamics. Shout out Michael B. Jordan. Like I said, his best performance. The whole cast had solid acting, but I want to give two big shout outs to Jack O'Connell as the antagonist, the evil vampire. I believe his name was Remick or Remnick. Awesome, just fun, vile villain. And Jamie Lawson, who I have a girlfriend, so I can't say too much. Who she watched this video? Thank you, baby. Jamie Lawson. Obviously, the very similar story structure was heavily inspired by From Dusk Till Dawn. The first half being the setup of our characters, the second half killing vampires who seemingly pop out of nowhere, but it still felt original and unique enough to stand on its own 2 feet. This was probably the biggest surprise of 2025 so far. I remember watching the trailer and I thought, okay, this looks interesting. I had no idea it was going to be this much of a banger. Stunning cinematography. This film, I believe, was shot entirely on IMAX 70mm film, and every shot just looks grand and crisp and damn near mesmerizing. This is still easily the best looking movie so far. I mean, it's fun, chaotic second half. I enjoyed the vampires. I enjoyed, like I said, the characters. And also, this movie has my favorite scene of the year. I'm not gonna spoil anything. Just know that it involves music. I'm not even exaggerating. Not only is this probably gonna stay my favorite scene of the year, regardless of what my favorite movie is, although that's pretty hyperbolic, you never know, but what I'm trying to say is, I think this movie, this scene, has the potential to become a staple in cinema. Like, this is the type of scene you'll see when walking into fucking film school. That scene is easily the peak of Sinners. Everything after is still great. Again, I do prefer the first half just a little bit more, only because I found the writing and the story just a bit more captivating, but it doesn't become boring. It doesn't become dog shit. This movie is a wild experience through and through, and I'm just glad an original rated R movie can still become a phenomenon, can still bring masses to the theaters and have us talk about it, to still feel like a cultural moment. With all that being said, I'm giving Sinners an 8 out of 10. Easily still my favorite movie of the year. Halfway throughout 2025, I would recommend this to literally everybody. The hype is there. The hype is real. The hype is valid. If you have not yet, for some whatever reason, watch Sinners. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes part 1 of our best and the worst movies of 2025 so far. Now, if you're wondering why I may look a little different, this is a post-edit. It's been about a week or so since I recorded all the earlier footage you just now finished watching, and that is because this video was originally not meant to be split into 2. It was one long video, an hour long matter of fact, and I talked about, I think, 14 movies in total. But to make a long story short, my dog shit internet connection couldn't handle uploading a 1 hour long edited 4K video, and also uploading it from my iPhone 14 probably didn't help. But regardless, we move on, we move forward. I decided, you know what, I don't want to get behind my upload schedule, so I'll just go ahead and split this video in half. In the second half, in part 2 that I'll be uploading in a few days, I'll be talking about another set of movies that have come out in the first half of this year. Those movies include Friendship, Warfare, The Ugly Stepsister, and a few more. By the time this video is up, I would have already seen Eddington, Together, and the new Fantastic Four movie. Now, Fantastic Four and Together are 100% getting their own separate reviews. Eddington may get its own video or be chucked in with part 2 Best of the Worst of 2025 video. It just depends on how much I want to say about that movie. Regardless, now you know my plan. Stay tuned for these reviews. Not sure exactly which order they'll be coming out in, but I am 100% sure that they are coming out within the next few days. Thank you all as always for watching. Let me know what you think. Comment on what films I may have missed that you want to see a review on. And as always, don't forget to subscribe. We, yes, me and you're a part of this now. We, Swan's family, we want to hit 1,000 subs. So let's do that. Alright, y'all, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.